Hi, everyone. My name is Jack Reynolds, and I'll be helping to moderate today's webinar. We have two fantastic presenters with us today who will be walking through how to leverage Xtime to manage your customer lifecycle. First, I'll introduce our guest speaker, Kyle Mountsier, COO and partner at Automotive State of the Union. And then from the Cox Automotive camp, we have Tiffani Stefanescu, Manager of Performance Management at Xtime. I want to make sure we have enough time for Kyle and Tiffani to run through everything they've prepared today, but we do have a few housekeeping items to mention before we get started. All attendees have been muted, but if you do have questions throughout the session, please put them in the GoTo console on the right-hand side of your screen. At the end of the presentation, we'll take around 10 minutes to go through what you've submitted. Additionally, a recording of today's webinar will be sent out to everybody once we conclude. Tiffani and Kyle, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Thanks, Jack. As Jack said, my name is Tiffani Stefanescu. I'm with the Xtime Performance Management team, and I have my friend Kyle that's part of Automotive State of the Union. Before we get started, though, I'm sure some of y'all are wondering, what is Automotive State of the Union? So Kyle, I wanted to give you a second, kind of share your background and all the great things your company does in the automotive industry.
Yeah, so well, my background is in retail. I spent 12 years on the retail side of the business, everything variable, fixed ops, training, all across the board, marketing, operations, and a little over a year and a half ago, left to embark in working with Paul daily to build Automotive State of the Union. So Automotive State of the Union, like the simplest way to say it is we're a community-based modern media organization that's dedicated to shifting the culture and perception of retail auto. So we've got social media and live events and content coming out of our ears. We host some webinars, and we have a daily email that you can get. It's at asotu.com, asotu.com. And the goal of that daily email is just to like center everyone around some of the topics that we're thinking about. And we try and not be stuffy with it, which is the way that we go with a lot of our content. So we throw some gifts in the email. We've got, a little jab at each of the little content sections about what's going on in not just auto, but the world of retail. And so, yeah, we just invite more people to be a part of that community, be a part of pushing back against market forces, innovating, dreaming up the best way to serve customers, serve employees through content mediums that we have. So that's ASOTU in like as quick as I can pack it in.
Awesome. And then there will be some more information at the end of the slide for everyone so you can get details on the company and how you can get those awesome emails with the hilarious gifts, because we all know we love a good gift, especially on a Monday.
Yes, exactly.
All right, so let's go ahead and dive on in. As far as our agenda goes, so today we're going to be looking at the sales to service process, moving gears into service as an acquisition channel. So literally using your service lane basically as an auction right there on demand. And then we're going to go ahead into nurturing with one-to-one communications with our clients. And then lastly, this dream state that Kyle and I came up with that we're really excited to talk to you about, an out-of-the-box idea or ideas that takes retention to the next level. All right, so let's dive on into the first topic, sales to service. This is a powerful one. Right at the sales kickoff, this is where we can transform that customer from the variable side and convert them into a fixed customer. So how do we do that, and how do we do that effectively? That's the golden question. There's many approaches that you could take. So let's take a peek at some of the things we can do within Xtime, and then we'll also discuss some examples we've seen in dealerships we handle in the real world.
Yeah, and let me say this before we get into it, is like sales always tends to kind of get the glory, and fixed ops knows that that's where the money's made, that's where the customers are served on a regular basis. And so really, like, the thought process as we walk through this is really getting the service team to start leaning into the sales team to enforce and put in some of these processes in place so that we can care for the customer long term and make sure that service continues to like get and maintain the glory with the customer, because that handoff is so important that we know on the service side. But a lot of times, like, everything is dropped. It's like, we sold a car, yay, and we forget that the next things have to happen. And I think the onus is on every department, not just the sales department, to put these processes in place to make sure that customer lifecycle management can be strong.
100%, absolutely. So who owns it? Who owns making a customer's first appointment? I think this varies greatly from dealership to dealership and sales department to sales department. The most effective way I've seen it in the 11 years I've been working in the performance management team is having that salesperson that's already harvested that relationship with the client. They just sold them a car. Have them be the bridge to converting them into a service customer. You know, walk them through the experience on the website, show them the dealer website, show them how to schedule that appointment online, get that first service booked. And the beauty of showing them that website is you're also grooming them to be efficient customers in the service drive, because they're not going to pick up the phone every time they need an appointment. They already know how to schedule that service online at their fingertips.
Yeah,
So
I think that that's the biggest deal. It's not just about getting it scheduled. It's about training the customer that they can be self-sufficient, right? That they have the ability to go edit that appointment or do anything like that. And I would encourage it on the phone or in the mobile app if the OEM provides the link straight to your service scheduler, because that training right there will reduce calls in your service BDC, reduce calls to your advisor for setting up that or canceling or rescheduling that appointment. And so that kind of handoff is extremely important. I do think that, you know, the service walk on the sales side is still important, introducing the service team, introducing where to pull in, but scheduling it, actually having the customer type in the elements, walk through the service scheduler. So that way, the next time they do it, they're not hitting the chat button or hitting the call button on the site and taking employees' time in something that they can be self-sufficient at. And we looked at like, here on the bottom of this slide, this takes some management, right? Setting up your first service opcode, setting up a first service team or advisor so that you can be notified quickly, and making sure that there's enough availability in that process. And we'll go over in a second just kind of, you know, what Xtime has as the ability to kind of have that in a lead bucket so that you're not hurting your future availability, you know, when you get to that time and maybe people need to reschedule. But I think that they have to be held accountable. You know, that it's a simple process. I don't care if you're selling 10 or 50 cars a day. It's really easy to go back and go, did everybody that bought today, new and used, get scheduled for a service appointment? And maybe the outlier is, you know, someone that, you know, flew in from 8 hours away and they don't need a service appointment at your shop, but those should be, you know, outliers at best. But 100% of the time, every customer, every time, first and when we didn't put this in here, Tiffani, first and next service appointment, because if the sales team has to do it, then the service team has to do it too.
100%. And I'm glad you brought that up, because it's retention is a life cycle. It just keeps going around and around, and that wheel keeps turning, but that wheel can always stop. And it's, you know, little gaps like that, like the next service appointment, that can stop the wheel from turning.
I'll give you this real quick. When I was at the stores and you and I worked together on this, but when we started to put this process in place, we went from about 20% of our appointments being scheduled online to, if I remember correctly, and I don't have the data in front of me, you could probably pull it from the store, but over 45% of our appointments were actually scheduled through an online medium, which meant like now we had this open opportunity for the BDC to begin doing outbound once that started to transition, because we had time availability in our employees' day. So that was a big move, you know, from a percentage of online appointments for us when some of these processes were put in place.
100%. And it all boils down to the customer experience, right? There's a lot going on in the back end when you do make these first and next service appointments. For example, automated reminders to those customers that gives them the ability to not have to, again, pick up the phone to reschedule. Instead, in the reminders, there's a link they click on, they go right into that appointment. They can modify it, you know, at a click or the tap of a finger. So it just really does boil down to customer experience and making it as easy as possible for them. But we know there's logistics involved. So that's what we're going to dive into next, as far as Kyle brought up the leads. One of my greatest pushbacks with stores that I had brought up this process to was, well, I don't want these first or next service appointments booked 6 months out to take up my capacity for those future dates. Get it. I get it. I know. I'm the worst when it comes to dentist appointments, like 6 months out. I'm sure that sounds great. And then like 2 days before, I'm like, oh crap, I can't make it. We've got to reschedule. And then in that case, it messed up their whole capacity that they were, you know, pre-booking for that day. So we have a resource for that. And that's the service leads. So all of it is customizable. I know each OE kind of has a different timeline as far as when the first or next maintenance should happen. So you can set that at the dealer or store level. In addition to that, it doesn't affect your capacity until the customer physically confirms it through one of the notifications. You heard I said plural, notifications. You can determine how many you want to send. You can do one a month before, 6 weeks before, a week before, 2 days before. Really, it just depends on the needs and also the clientele. You kind of get a feel for your client base, how they respond and the frequency that they need reminded. So we can tailor all of those to your needs. And then again, once they hit confirm, it swipes in from a lead to an appointment and takes up the capacity. If they don't confirm, it will still leave that slot open for a customer that wants to book a physical appointment for that same day.
Yeah, and thinking about the notifications, you just think about it being that the trigger event is now a future date instead of a past date. You're pushing towards something instead of learning from something. So it's a real mind shift in like your marketing communications or your customer retention communications, because now you're going look forward to this thing instead of like, we know you bought a car X amount of time ago. And so set up as many of those as makes sense for what you need to communicate to your customer. I mean, here's what I love about it is like, say it's 5 months out. There's no reason why 4 months out you can't send a text that has a little bit different of a dynamic message. Hey, it looks like, you may have just purchased, or you may have, just serviced your vehicle with us. Hey, hope everything's going well. Let us know if there's anything we can help. You get to now drip feed into this customer because you have a target that you can set communications off of. It's just like setting up business rules on the sales side of things that says like, hey, we just got a lead. All right, what are the follow things that we get to do? This can happen in the service department too, and really start to use, your service scheduler as more of a CRM than just a scheduler.
Exactly, 100%. Okay, let's take a look. So the next piece, how do we use invite? So let's say we haven't, we just brought this topic to your lap today, and any customer that bought a car in the past month, 2 months, maybe they haven't been booked for their first service, or service customers that came in the past couple weeks haven't been booked for their next service. If you are on Xtime Invite, you can still target those customers. So our platform does integrate where we can pull the delivery date for new car sales, and we can target customers that have purchased the vehicle within that time frame, and then send them an email to try to book their first service. You can offer a coupon that's like the one that's shown in this example. And then same thing goes for next service appointments. We can target people that haven't been within 3 months and try to get them in as well. So it's not too late. You can still implement these new processes from this point forward, but anyone in the past we can still reach, and that's still an option.
And when you're building this email, make sure that you look at the communication and figure out what the urgency piece is. Like why as a customer would I want to set an appointment, 1, 2, 3 months out? Availability, your ease of access. What's the reason? Make sure that you key in on that. Make this a short, simple email that keys in on whatever urgency would ring true to the customer, and don't make that email super long. I mean, think about it. How many emails do you get that are 5 paragraphs long that you read every single paragraph? 0, zip, none of them, right? So make it 2, maybe 3 quick sentences with a high value proposition, and invite them into the process. And that's going to like increase your ability. Actually, I would argue, and you can work with your customer success manager on this, on a lot of these emails, because you might be hitting like places like promotions or spam inboxes. Potentially go to just a text only email if you're needing to re-engage someone that's not engaged with your service department. So don't put the header graphics, don't put the base graphics, just go straight up text only email with a single link URL. You're going to hit more general inboxes, hit less spam, and you're probably going to engage that customer because they're not going to open it and think it's some marketing email. Sign it from your actual sales manager and re-engage that customer or service manager.
Also, I'm glad you brought up, bring the point across. You had said urgency, Kyle. One thing too is maybe urgency and or convenience. We all know customers hate waiting at the dealership. We also know that we have a limited supply of loaner vehicles, but if they book 6 months, 5 months in advance for that loaner car, that guarantees that they get one. So just trying to drive that, and we'll dive into it a little bit more, the benefits of having customers, either drop off, have a loaner shuttle or a ride share versus wait, and the impact it has on your revenue. But at least you're planting that seed and you're giving them the opportunity, and that entices them to book now, get it in. And then that way they get that loaner car reserved. Okay, so let's switch gears. Service as an acquisition channel. We all know inventory, it has been for the past couple years and still is an issue as far as used cars go. And the beauty of it is you have an auction lane right in your service drive and you may not even know it. So what can we do to basically bring this process into play at your store?
Yeah, and this is just completing the circle. It's going, we just went from sales to service. Now we go from service to sales, and we know that if a customer is services 3 times or more at the dealership, they're 3 times or more likely to buy again at the dealership, and the percentages go up on a second purchase going back into service. So it's not like we're losing a customer, pushing them back to the sales or to the acquisition side of things. We're actually increasing our opportunity for customer lifetime value.
Yep, absolutely. So how do we do this and how can we do it effectively? The good thing is the steps are actually pretty simple. The first thing you could do today, you could get with your performance manager, or if you know how to add a service in your service catalog, you can create one that says, I may be interested in training in my vehicle, or even make it as simple as free appraisal. Give it the option for customers to select when booking online. They can add it to their appointment. And then when that customer comes in, you can see right on that workbook based on the service that they're interested in appraisal, and you can get with your sales team and let them know, hey, we have a potential car in here that may be a trade-in. Building off of that, and I know, Kyle, this is one thing that you really supported, was linking the trade tool to your quote notifications. I know you've suggested this in the past. What type of success have you seen with dealers, with quotes and then the opportunity of linking that trade into it?
Yeah, I mean, the beauty of the beauty of everything that's happening with Inspect and the ability to go straight, for that quote to be texted or email, is now you can actually include additional links in that text message, because you can customize those texts. So why not give the customer a quick opportunity to go ahead and appraise their vehicle? And I would, I've recommended, and a couple dealerships have turned this on, and it's this idea, and you don't have to use Zillow, but that we're the Zillow of car dealerships, that we just want to make sure that you always have quick access to your vehicle's value. Because think about it, people are always going on Zillow or Redfin or anything like that. If you own a house, you're always checking its value. Similar with your car. If you own a car, you're always checking its value. So make that quick and easy for a customer to get that value. And then you've got a hot inquiry, someone that's like at least thinking about the possibility of what my vehicle's value is. So linking that trade-in tool right in there would be a prime opportunity for that. And some of the trade-in tools actually allow you to use some sort of like merge fields to enter the VIN number and the miles into like, URL parameters that might actually be able to speed that customer up in the trade tool. So get with your, the trade tool manager and your Xtime manager and figure out how you can speed that process up for a customer.
Yep, 100%. And then lastly, and going back to Xtime Invite, the marketing program, you can target vehicles that are over a certain age. So maybe you're targeting, 4 or 5-year-old vehicles. Send them an email using Invite. It doesn't have to always be a service special. Say, hey, we want your car. We'd love to have you bring it in for a free appraisal at your convenience, and just plant that seed. But on top of that, one thing I've seen, one of my dealer groups does, they have dealer.com as a website provider. And within dealer.com, you can basically run an analysis to see what consumers are searching for in used car inventory. And what they've done is they will target their current service customer base using Invite with the vehicles that potential new customers are searching for on their website. Because we know customers are wanting this car, now we need to find the inventory for it. Why not generate that from our current service database?
Yeah,
So
and you've got the most accurate mileage sitting right there, especially for customers that have serviced with you. So why not go after that low hanging fruit and customers that probably trust you better anyway than just trying to go acquire those vehicles or acquire them from auction and not know if the CR score is exactly right or anything like that.
or how about this idea? So maybe you have customers that, let's just say Hyundai, for example, they're in a Sonata, it's about 5 years, at that point where they're thinking if they want to trade or not. And then Hyundai's running a new car incentive for the new Sonatas. So really leverage your OE specials with new cars and target customers that are in an older version or older model year of that car and let them know, hey, this is what the manufacturer is offering. Would you be interested in trading in your vehicle? So just
Yep.
another creative idea you can use that.
And what I love about this mode is, we all have a lot of dealerships will have, an equity mining tool, and it's like, hey, we go after equity, we find payment opportunities. But the reality is, and if you've looked at your trade-ins over the last, well, let's maybe not call it 2022, but the majority of trades typically have inequity. When I was at the dealership, it was over 70% of our trade-ins actually had in equity. So targeting based on vehicle as opposed to equity, I think is the better option. And so this kind of like removes that cloud of doubt and says, let's just go after the vehicle or the customer or the miles. And I think it's going to win.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's shift gears. So we do have a service drive acquisition that's tied into, it's the instant cash offer through Kelley Blue Book. Then we also have an option of integration through Profit Time GPS, that's with vAuto. Basically what it will do is it puts the responsibility on the sales side. But remember we were talking, how cool would it be with that Kelley Blue Book quote to automate that VIN and there's no legwork done on the customer side because customer convenience is a priority. Well, this is what that does essentially. So sales can go in, they have their dashboard. We'll take a peek at that on the next screen so you can visualize it, but it'll basically show them what service appointments are coming in and the grading of that vehicle based on the needs of inventory. And so let's just say it's like an A or B. Right there from that workbook, they can send an instant cash offer invite email before the appointment even occurs. And then they'll get response from the customer. They'll let them know, okay, they wanted the instant cash offer. We already got the ball rolling. They come in for their service appointment, and then they can take things to the next level. So you're sourced from your live service lane by sending that ICO while the vehicle is in for service.
Yeah, and what I love about this is like the track through if you're a vAuto dealer to go from from acquisition source to profitability or acquisition source to time to retail or anything like that is clearly trackable through all of that. So it's a no-brainer. I would say if you are an Xtime vAuto KBB ICO dealer and you're not sending this with every single customer that's coming through the lane every time, you're just missing a bunch of opportunity because you could at least be getting the cream off the top of the people that are immediately interested, and you don't even have to have the conversation because they'll tell you up front that they're interested.
Yeah, so let's take a peek of how that looks. So this would be where you would go in and you'll have your service appointment list. And as you can see, it has your stocking score. It will give you how many of inventory, how many you've recently sold, and then the customer information's right there. Just for privacy reasons, we did blur those out. And then what's going to happen is in the ICO, you will click on that appointment and it's going to pull up the same information with the appointment date this time. But as you can see, you can either create an offer or you can send the invite for the customer to create their own offer. And that's going to be the most efficient. And there's an example too there of what that email looks like.
Yep, it's great. It's awesome.
All righty. Okay, outside of that, my computer decided to freeze up on me, so let me go back. So a few things to just out of the box and inspect without any of the other products that you can do to leverage a more effective sales setup. First off, give your sales management access to inspect. We have view only roles where they can't go into any ROs and mess anything up, I promise. Won't get an inspection done. But that way they can just see, and we can create user specific notifications. So some of my most powerful dealer groups that leverage service for sales inventory, they have these chat groups that's all tied into sales. So you can have multiple sales people in there and then attach it to what we call a notification group. And what happens is, let's say an advisor or even a tech is trying to chat in the inspect, he's doing the multi-point, maybe he's doing that free appraisal they had the appointment for. They can chat at sales, this car is needing an appraisal, or at sales, this car's appraisal's done. Communicating without even having to go, because we know, when will you ever see a technician in the sales department? And it's very rare we see a lot of sales back in the shop. So it eliminates them trying to walk across the dealership. They have direct communication. So that's a simple, easy setup. Get with your performance manager. They can do that 2 minutes and that chat group is set up.
Yeah, I would say even if you don't have that chat as the priority here, you should have your sales managers in inspect if they're not in inspect for things like used car inspections and figuring out where vehicles are in process. It's a no-brainer to have that as just an access point for the sales team, but to be able to communicate about a trade, or hey, maybe it is a customer that's getting an appraisal. We need to know what that car needs, and we need to know what we might cover for that customer if they did trade it. Or it's just an easy way of communicating so that there doesn't have to be that walk on some of these large dealerships. So
yeah, and then one nice thing too is we can even take it and automate that when it comes to notifications. And again, this is why it's so important to at least give a manager access to inspect. But you can tailor user-specific notifications. So, for example, I have one of my GMs actually has this notification set up where he will get an email and or text anytime an additional service recommendation is over a specific amount of money. Because at that point, if they're recommending $5,000 worth of work, a lot of customers are starting to think if they want to invest more in that car or invest into a car.
So smart, so smart.
Yeah, right.
That's
that you can set up.
genius. Yes.
Sorry, Cal, go ahead.
I just think that's genius, and everybody should do it. I wish I would have known about that when I was at a store, because hey, why not just ping those customers immediately? Or like, I'm sure you could get a notification anytime a certain type of vehicle was entered into service, right?
Better. So it's not certain type of vehicle, it's actually mileage. So if the mileage is over a certain amount, because that is very beneficial and valuable with trading it.
Yep, exactly.
And then lastly, outside notifications, you'll see all those cool colors on that screenshot. Those are what we call custom RO flags in inspect. Those can be added at the dealership level. So some stores will use purple there, for example, just to let sales know that is a car needing or wanting an appraisal. So they don't even have to go into each and every RO. They can see at a glance, these are the ones that I need to talk to today.
You said this as we kind of got into this, but this is your auction lane. Dedicate at least someone to hanging out in here at least once an hour, because your auction lane is sitting there waiting for you, ready to go appraise a bunch of vehicles, talk to customers, and buy cars or trade cars. That's that process, I think, should be such a free-flowing thing between sales and service, and such a complementary engagement that it's just natural that that's just constantly happening in the dealership.
100%. 100%. All right, so let's kind of go ahead and move into nurturing the relationship, right? We've got sales to service and service to sales. How do we nurture the customer? How do we keep them coming back to both departments through their life cycle as an automotive client? So let me go ahead and.
Yep. Again, think about this as a CRM, right? What would you, if you've ever been in sales or you are, you're general manager or something like this, and you're thinking about how am I maintaining customer life cycle on the sales side? Now you can leverage service schedulers and communication tools to create that lifetime nurturing in the service side too. So building out that pre-appointment communication via text, sending declined service recommendations with these trade offers, and I even love sending sales anniversary emails, but from the service team, not from the, hey, congrats on owning your vehicle for a year, from the sales team. Awesome. But from the service team, even better, right? I think that some of those key moments that it could be good to kind of like, instead of just from all the whole dealership, to separate it from like the sales team or the, maybe the salesperson and then the service advisor, because you're going to get the leverage of that one-to-one relationship a lot more.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought up that last point, Kyle. I think so often we get, our heads wrapped around, oh, we need to send them specials. We need to, make money, make money, make money. But it's a relationship. Imagine if your spouse or your kids came home every day asking for $10, $20. That relationship would get a little bit burdened, at least me personally. But
Yep.
if you're coming home or you're sending those emails, we appreciate you. Hey, happy birthday. You're doing a great job on, maybe their car looked great in their last service. You can just say, hey, nice work on your vehicle, by sending, instead of an ASR, a green inspection email. It's nurturing that relationship, not just
Yep.
constantly selling.
Yeah. Inform, maybe there's a new update or something cool that happened, or, some technology thing that you can inform customers with, even on the service side. You've got that opportunity to one-to-one communicate to specific vehicle type owners. So why not leverage that to communicate in not just a negative way, and not just, oh, you got a recall or we need to come in for service, but here's good information that we're feeding you as a content medium.
Yes, and one trend I'm starting to see more and more, especially starting probably about Q1 of last year into this year, is I've had dealerships basically inform customers of some type of like community service they're doing, whether it be like a toy drive around Christmas, or even going to the food bank and welcoming customers to participate in that with them, because it's so much less business and so much more personal, and just out of the box ideas like that. And then you're also contributing to the same community that's giving you business. I think it's a win-win.
Yep. And I'll just say this, having worked in both Vin Solutions and Xtime, and we'll give it up for the Xtime people right now, the HTML and email builder in Xtime is a lot easier to use than the Vin Solutions. So if you want to do that level of email blasting, you might think about doing it from the service side, especially since people see service a lot more.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, and then, going deeper into these communications, leveraging those appointment reminders for next appointment to check in on owner satisfaction. How are you? We hope you were satisfied with your auto repair. Get a temp of how things are going before they come in, but also on that next bullet point, how things went when the service is completed. What does that follow-up look like?
Yeah, and use your OEM's language. I was a part of a Mazda dealership or group, and we said, we hope that it was that your service experience was truly exceptional, which was kind of their verbiage for their top score in their NPS rating. So start to use some of that planted seed language in those follow-ups, and it might help, continue to raise your NPS or CSI scores.
Yep, 100%. Oh, the exciting part. Okay, so this is the dream state, basically the last section. Before we do dive into it, though, we have a little poll that we wanted to open up to the group. So I'm going to go ahead and kick that off, and then we'll dive back into the dream state. So what I wanted to ask all the attendees is, do you know what your current customer retention percentage is? When you get a chance, go ahead and select which one you think you're within.
I'm excited to see what
Me
the
too.
variance of results is here, because and different manufacturers have different levels and different requirements and different areas and cities, so it's most likely going to be scattered. But depending on where you're at, everybody has an opportunity. In the last month, I've talked to a dealership group that had over 80% and one that had in the 40s. And both of them were looking at what's the opportunity. So yeah, this was kind of where I figured it, but the majority sitting in that 41 to 60%, which is where most people are. But if you're sitting in that 20 to 40%, or even that 41 to 60, look at that opportunity of heading north. And if you're in that 80 to 100%, you probably have most of the tools necessary to get that extra 5-10% right now. And hopefully we can kind of talk a little bit about those here on these next few slides. But was this what you were expecting? Were those results in line with what you were thinking, Tiffany?
I was thinking the second and third. Well,
Yeah.
that too, because if I don't know, I'm not going to pick the lowest. I'm not going to pick the highest. So I'm like, let's go with the middle. Maybe we should have done an I don't know, but no, that's definitely where I was thinking.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so how, we keep talking customer retention. But the thing is, everyone, is the dealers truly are the ones that need to own that retention. What
Yeah.
are you doing to make the service experience seamless? And Kyle, I'm gonna let you, because some of the things you were saying, it was like, wow, I mean, you've insight,
This is my thing, is like what we've done as an industry is real. Like what are the major things that manufacturers are excited about, whether they're doing a review of your store or they're looking or you're looking to buy a new store, or maybe your store is in trying to get acquired, like things that people are looking for: profitability, sales growth, CSI scores, and retention are the main four drivers of decision making at that level. And what we've done is put all of our retention on the customer. We've said, hey, Mr. Mrs. Customer, it's your job to get back here. Now we're going to shout at you as many times to remind you that you need to come back. But we have a unique opportunity, and one that was really started to get explored in early pandemic because we were forced to start to own the customer lifecycle on our side. And this is something that most other industries don't actually have the ability to do, because they have no way of going and getting the customer, because it requires the customer be there. But we actually have the ability to go get the car because we don't actually need the customer. So here's like the money side of it, and then we'll get to the functional side of it. But I asked Tiffani and the team at Xtime, I was like, let's pull a report on every ASR dollar that we can see, and look at the number of ROs that are in these three buckets. So drop off, waiter, and then loaner, rental, rideshare, shuttle, and look at the ASR dollars per RO, and the approval rate of ASRs. And as you can see right there, if someone is in a loaner, rental, rideshare, shuttle, those dollars are always up. Now, if you were to just take out the ones that we had to put in a loaner because we needed an engine, it was going to take 7 days, I'm sure we would still be able to see a higher dollar amount and a higher approval rate. Anecdotally, I know that customers that weren't sitting in the showroom trying to figure out how they were going to get out of drinking your bad coffee, not everyone's coffee is bad, but potentially yours is, and twiddling their thumbs, those people were more apt to say yes more often, because they weren't restricted by time and they weren't restricted by comfortability. And even the most comfortable dealership on the planet that I've been to, you look around and everybody's looking, trying to figure out when they can get out of there. I don't care if you got a bar in the place. It's just not the place that people want to sit for an afternoon. So that's the dollar amounts that you can attribute to this. So that is the proof in the pudding on putting more dollars toward owning the customer retention. And when I think about this, I think about how do we basically become SaaS. So if you know what SaaS means, software as a service, which is Xtime is SaaS, Vin Solutions is SaaS. But how does a dealer become SaaS? Create a recurring revenue stream that consistently has customers coming back at a high value of customer, meaning the highest customer pay dollars per RO, is you set it up so that they don't have to worry about doing anything, that you own everything. And the closer you get to that, the higher all of those numbers go. So the idea looks like this: is set that appointment, make it a loaner, shuttle, rideshare, rental type of appointment, and begin to figure out how to leverage drivers to go and pick up and delivery as many vehicles as you possibly can within a serviceable radius of your dealership. Now, this takes some staffing, or it takes a ride share or relationship, but now you put the onus on yourself to go, hey, Mr. Customer, in 5 days, we're about to be picking up your vehicle for its regular maintenance. When we come to you, are you going to be at your home or office? Right. And the only option that they can say otherwise that doesn't work for you is that they're going to be on vacation, or it's going to be at the airport, and you're not going to be able to get that car. Apologize. But more often than not, you're going to be able to go get that car. And now you've set to where you own the relationship of retention instead of the customer owning the relationship of retention. So that's my dream state. I know a couple dealerships that are working toward that right now, but it's been kind of a dream of mine for a minute that I think that dealerships could do this. And then if you build in, a subscription model that's outside of the purchase process, right? We do sell maintenance a lot, but if we built in a subscription model where customers could pay $10, $15, $20 a month and consistently have that come out of their bank account, not thought about for their regular maintenance, you're picking up their vehicle and then you're texting all of your ASRs to the customer in a convenient way that makes sense to them, you're going to see customer satisfaction, customer retention, dollars per RO, all of that go up. There you go. Was that good, Tiffani? I kept talking for a hot minute. I get excited about it.
I know. And since you presented the idea to me, because I'm like the queen of subscriptions. I mean, half the ones I don't even realize I have until you get that Apple alert. But you could take it a step further because everyone's always wanting the best of the best and do like a tier. So like your good is, hey, okay, you pay $10 a month, for example, and you're guaranteed in an appointment slot at the time you want, 6 months, 5 months, whenever that service is due. And then you take it the step further. You have silver. Okay, you have a guaranteed appointment slot plus maybe a loaner, or maybe it's just a ride share at your convenience. And then platinum is where you pay $25 to $30 a month, but you don't have to leave your house. You don't have to do anything. We will come get your car. We'll leave you a car. We'll take care of your car. We'll bring your car back. All done. There you go. But then you're also making extra money each month, which will pay for the resources you need to provide that excellent service.
Yeah, and don't think about this as a maintenance plan where you want the spoilage. You want 100% usage of this maintenance plan every time. Yep.
Yeah. And if they're committed to it too, I mean, if I know I'm paying this each month, you bet your dollar I'm going to be at your dealership getting my service done because I'm investing my money in your store. I'm not going to go Jiffy Lube just because they have a special today. No, if I'm going to invest some money here, I'm going to this dealership.
That's it. That's it. Someone do it and report back to us. Please. We got our emails on the last slide. I want to hear the story. I'll come to a story on your dealership and it'll be exciting.
Yes. Oh, awesome. Well, this was fun. Okay, so let's do like a recap, kind of go through what we've walked through, and then we also have a call to action for you at the store level, kind of take that first step into owning the retention, piece. So let me go ahead into the recap. So first appointment must. I mean, Kyle, you were a pro at this with the group you worked at. If you had to name 3 first appointment musts, what would they be?
You got to set the first appointment in sales. You got to do a service walkthrough, introduce to the advisor into the drive-through lane, and you have to set the next appointment in the service drive for every single service customer. That's your opportunity to reduce your employee cost of time.
Yep, 100%. Okay, service is an acquisition channel. We've said it many times through this webinar. You have an auction right in your service lane. Use it. Use Invite, use the Kelly Blue Book, the V-Auto provision. You get your sales team and your service team. Believe it or not, we all work for the same dealership. Make it feel that way. We're all a team. Let's keep that retention cycle going, and let's not be the ones to stop the wheel. Communication with intention. Thoughts on that one, Kyle, if we had to throw out some key points from
just think about the need to have one-to-one communications with your customers, and how can you leverage tools that say, this customer did this at this moment, I'm going to say this to them here, instead of mass blasting everyone for communication. How do I make intentional communication with my customers at the right time, at the right place, to serve them and their individual needs? Because they don't care about you serving everybody else. They care about you serving them.
Yep. And then last, but certainly not least, that dream state. How can you put the dream state into action at your store? How do you own the retention where it doesn't even rely on the customer anymore? And how do you take it to the next level? So I think the first call to action to answer those questions is to truly ask yourself, how does it feel to be your customer from point of sale all the way through service closeout? What is that whole experience like? Or if you were a customer, would you want to come back? Would you want to buy another vehicle? Would you want to come back for your next service? And I think the first step is go ahead and just schedule a service appointment for the next available service and watch how communication happens. Is there availability for a loaner or a valet? Really put yourself in the customer's shoes, because that is the first step to owning the customer retention.
Yep. Go to your website on your phone, go to the home page and see how easy or hard it is to schedule an appointment, and then get to that appointment and the communication that happens along the way.
Yep. Love it. Cool. So we will open it up then to any questions. I know there's a questions tab on your GoToWebinar where you can type any questions that you may have. So we'll give you all a few minutes to put some questions in there.
All right, yeah, thank you both. We have had a couple come in already, so we can get going into those while we let some more trickle in here. First one, this came in while you were talking about one-on-one communication and texting. This attendee is wondering, do you need the full spectrum package to enable those offers?
For offers, as far as marketing goes, yes, that would be text marketing. But as far as follow-up notifications, so appointment follow-up, we can text automated without invite, as well as the reminders that can be tailored as well. So those don't require invite.
All right, awesome.
And that doesn't count as mass text marketing. So it doesn't require initial opt-in from the customer, which is what like text marketing does, because it's one-to-one communications.
Good point, Kyle.
Yep.
All right, next one here. Is there reporting available on leads?
There is. So once you turn the leads on, you will start to see there's it's called the leads report, or I think it just says leads on the box in the reporting section. Your performance manager can walk through that with you, but it will show basically how many were scheduled, how many it showed, how many canceled, and all that fun stuff.
All right, we've got two more at the moment. Next one here, how do your clients hold salespeople accountable for making the first appointment?
Great question. It could be as simple as some of my stores will do is they require a printout of the appointment confirmation in the deal jacket. So the GM will not sign off of it on that deal until the first appointment was booked. Or what you could do as well is you can use that lead report to kind of go in and see how many leads were booked that day and compare it to how many new cars or used car sales you had. And then you can kind of see, okay, this is where we missed. It won't give a salesperson name, but at least you'll see the numbers and the gaps. Ideally, I think the printout's the most effective, and everyone knows the salesperson wants to close the deal, so they're going to go ahead and book that appointment and print that confirmation.
Yeah, that printout was the most effective thing that we did at the stores, and I know the stores that I was at still do that to this day. It commits the customer to it too, to actually doing it and being a part of it. So we actually had the customer sign off that they had scheduled the first appointment, because for us it was also on the OE survey on the sales side, and I know a lot of OEs have started moving that way. So thinking about just how do we make sure that customer first service appointment, but the print off is pretty much the way to go. We actually wouldn't finish the deal through finance. Yeah. So the finance manager had the first go at not sending it into the GM. And the other nice thing about that is a print off from a web print allows you to see the time and date that the actual appointment was done. And so you're not getting appointments scheduled like 3 days later. You can kind of do some quick audits on your salespeople there too.
Good call out.
All right. Let's see. We got another one come in. This one says, so for those first lead appointments, how do you handle it if the customer is not showing up at Xtime yet?
Customers not showing up in Xtime. Well, you would be creating that. It would technically, what you would do is just create a new customer profile. But what the system will do is at night that will do a data push and pull between your DMS and match the customer name. It's the phone number and email address, and then it merge basically those two accounts. So you would just create it, and the beauty of it is with new customers in Xtime, if you've never done before, I think there's only like 4 or 5 required fields, one of them being the last name, phone number, email, and then your make and model. So it's super easy. We're not asking for the VIN, anything like that right out of the gate, but the system will at night do the DMS data pull where it can merge those two profiles.
Yeah, and keep in mind that the way you don't have to have the Xtime login to create the lead. It's created based off of time. So if any appointment is set 5 months out and your lead time is 4 months out, then any appointment, so that whether that be next or first service appointment, any appointment past that is put in that lead bucket. If I'm correct,
I will
Tiffany?
say the web appointments, so the customer made ones will not. And that's why we suggested creating the first appointment team. And then that way you can pull a
Yes.
report for that team or advisor. It's going to
Yep.
be the appointments that are made within X time that are going to turn into leads.
All right. And then last one here, can we set up call tasks for appointment follow-up?
Oh, yeah. And that you could do right out of the box. I mean, today you don't need invite for the outbound tasks for follow-up. So get with your performance manager and they can get that set up for you.
All right. Well, we don't have any more questions coming in, so we can go ahead and pretty much wrap up today's webinar. Thank you guys both for an informative and engaging session. Do you have any closing thoughts?
Kyle, we got into you.
Yeah, my biggest closing thought is think about not just a service appointment, but a service life cycle, right? How do we create a service life cycle for the customer and engage them? Like, think like a marketer. And if your marketing team and your service team are not tightly integrated, then make that fix now. Like, operations, marketing, and service should be almost more tightly integrated than sales. Like I said, sales gets all the glory. How many cars do we sell? But the opportunity to sell more cars at higher margins to the customers that count the most, which are your service customers, is the biggest opportunity. You're going to drive cost per acquisition down on the sales side. You're going to drive cost per acquisition down on your service side. So lean into that. Lean in as a marketer, thinking customer lifecycle management through every step of the way with your service processes.
Love it, love it. And before we go, there is that QR code on the screen. Please scan it so you can check out Kyle's company, Automotive State of the Union. They have really cool ideas, great content. And then in addition, I know we talked a lot about performance managers. If you don't know who your performance manager is or you need help getting in touch with them, that is my email. Please email me. I'll be happy to help you and get you connected.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.